Nicolas Dalby versus Gabriel Bonfim. Bonfim, 15-0, I believe, going into this. I think he was probably the favorite going into this. This is by far his toughest test in Dalby.
Yeah, I was
Um,
surprised hearing the record, and like he seems like a young guy. I thought he didn't have that storied of a history. 15 fights in the UFC.
no. So 15 fights total.
Mm.
This was his third UFC fight.
Okay, that's what I
Um,
remember. I'm like, okay, well then he's fresh.
yeah, yeah.
What about Dalby?
Um, Dalby's he's a vet, man. He's been in there for a while. He's 23, 4-1. He's been in the UFC since 2015. So he's been doing it. He's on a 3-fight win streak. They put him in the co-main against Bonfim. Bonfim and his brother both exploded onto the scene. They were like fighting on the same card. They got first round finishes like on the same card in their UFC debuts. It was awesome to see. Um, Ismail Bonfim was originally supposed to fight on this card, but missed weight, so they canceled his fight.
Mm.
He got his first UFC loss, his last fight, and everyone was thinking these guys are potential world beaters, right? Because they just stormed onto the scene. They're finishing people in the first round. Ismail Bonfim just lost. This is now Gabriel's time to just kind of maybe elevate past that and keep the train rolling.
Hmm.
But Dalby's a gamer. In the first round, they're just fucking going to town. This
Well,
fight
yeah,
was actually fucking sick.
yeah, it was great to watch, really exciting. And the first note I have here, other than like the feathery tattoos that Dalby has, I'm not a fan of
Yeah,
all the angel tattoo work. I'm not sure. Anyway, but what I have is that Bonfim kicked out his lead leg once and then twice, and right after the second one, he went for a combination right afterward. And then
hmm
the third time, he goes for the combination, and then on that one, Darby just charges
Dalby.
right through the combo and
Yeah,
just
just, I
and
don't give a
tries to
fuck
just get in his
anymore.
face and get some close elbows. I was like,
hmm
man, I was like, should he be checking this sweeping kick? I wasn't sure, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, ideally you want to check it, right? And like, it's one of those things where, he comes into the UFC, he's finished all of his opponents, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I think, yeah, he'd never been to decision, finished everybody, knockouts or submissions. Um, and a lot of the times on those like regional scenes before you get to the UFC or before you get to some of these bigger organizations, you can kind of just like out blitz people. If you
Mm-hmm.
blitz somebody in those regional scenes, a lot of the times they're going to kind of cover up. And if you cover up and somebody is blitzing you, it's kind of a wrap. You have to like fight fire with fire a little bit,
Hmm.
gain some respect. Blunderbub says, "Look at our boy Rich and his notes. Yeah, doing his due diligence, huh?" I don't even think Ramiro takes notes. Um, I don't take notes. But so a lot of the times, you can just storm through somebody, and if they wilt a little bit, it's kind of a wrap, and you can just finish them off. That starts to go away once you start getting these upper echelon level fights in the UFC, like Dalby, where this guy's not going to just wilt; he's going to fight fire with fire, and you almost have to kind of reset in that moment and adjust to that. And Bonfim really wasn't able to because the first round there it is fire with fire, right? But he's getting the better of the exchanges. But like you said, Dalby eventually just starts walking through that fire, and he ends up getting a takedown and kind of beating him up on the ground. And then you're like, man, that's a kind of a discouraging round. The way to end it for Dalby. Second round starts, Dalby's just running at him, and you're like, okay, he's still there.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
it was straight rush down. Like,
yeah,
he had, but then Bonfim had a couple takedowns, which is what we see right here.
yeah.
And was it? Hold on. And on that same round, um, Bonfim is on top, and he has his glove straight over
Yeah,
his
just
face.
covering.
I was like, are
Yeah.
you supposed to be able to smother their faces? I've never seen this before.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that as long as, your finger doesn't go in anywhere. No
Oh,
eyes, no
okay,
nose,
okay.
no mouth, anything like
Can
that.
they stop the breathing? Like, is that the goal?
Yeah. Well, it's just to disrupt it, right? Because if you can
Okay.
a lot of the times fighting in a nutshell, honestly, is can you disrupt what the other guy's doing? And that could be a it's so scalable, right? It could be as literally as simple as disrupting their breathing. It could be disrupting their posture. You know, a lot of the times you want to break form. You want to break
Mhm.
another fighter's form because if you can do that, you can create opportunities, get them off balance, and that's when you can really do some damage. So things like that are real crafty. Um, just trying to break form. But second round, eventually Dalby, like you said, he gets taken down a couple times, but he's able to get up now. doing really cool work on the ground, fishing for underhooks, getting to a single leg, getting to a double leg, building his base back up, and just really just not accepting the positions. And that's kind of this goes back to the same point where on these regional scenes, sometimes people do accept those positions and they don't have the fight in them to push through.
Hmm.
But that's not going to happen as you start climbing the rankings. Um, Butterbro says, well, who's the casual now? Well, yeah. Um, but halfway through that second round, I think it was around like 2 minutes. I think it was exactly the halfway point. Dalby gets back up off the ground and gets Bonfim up against the fence. And he hits him a couple times, and Bonfim shoots for a takedown, but this time it doesn't have that explosion on it. And Dalby just stops him in his tracks, and he gets back up. And Bonfim looks at the clock, and there's 2 minutes left in the round, and you're like,
He's like,
oh,
damn.
he's like, because he hasn't really, at least in the UFC, I haven't seen all of his 15 fights, right, and in some of these other organizations, but like I've never even heard of Future FC. Um, he fought for Samurai Fight, which is actually pretty sick. But um, you know, if you can dish it out but you can't take it, that's a lesson that needs to be learned and
Hmm.
addressed, right? And you only learn that once it happens, right? If you're steamrolling everybody, you never get the opportunity to learn that and adjust to it. Um, but when he started wilting, Dalby just continued to pour it on, and these knees that he was landing up against the fence were insane, dude. And
I mean,
eventually,
not even just the knees. He's got a bunch of just short, close quarters
yeah,
elbows, just like this, and like with some steam behind them. Boom! And they look very painful, dude. I couldn't believe they could just stand up after those.
yeah. And Bonfim, he's trying to land that uppercut. He threw the uppercut
Yeah,
like
three
three
times,
times.
3 times.
Yeah,
The first one just whew, when I was surprised that Darby kind of saw it coming or reacted and went backward, but the other two looked straight desperation. You know what I mean? The first one,
yeah,
like, oh, maybe he sees something, maybe he's not going to expect it, but the second and third time, like, it's
yeah.
too telegraphed, and it was desperation. It led to his
Yeah,
downfall.
and can you go back to that last picture actually really quick? So here it's a little different, but this is the one that finished him. But you see how Bonfim's legs, one foot is up on the fence and the other one's kind of more towards the center of the octagon.
Hmm.
You want to be able to stand like that, right? If you can stand bladed like that, then you can get power behind it. And he's actually throwing the right hand here. He's loading up to throw that right hand, and that's
Hmm.
actually what got him knocked out, right? But because he opened up to throw the right hand, then he came in, and that's what dropped him.
Hmm.
But before this, when he was throwing those uppercuts, Genevieve says, "I'm such a sucker for a good elbow. Love it." Yeah, because that's what brings the blood, and we all know Genevieve likes the blood. But
Yep.
um, earlier, when he was throwing those uppercuts, and when Dalby was really landing on him up against the fence, his feet weren't like this. Both his feet were up against the fence, and when your feet are square like that to your opponent, you can't generate any kind of
Clear the
power.
power.
Yeah, so Dalby just little things like that just really show the experience here to outdog him and get the finish for Bonfim's first loss in Brazil. It's like, God damn, went to Brazil to knock out the guy. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see how both Bonfim brothers now respond to their first UFC losses. For Gabriel, it's his first ever loss. But lessons to learn, but like I said, these lessons don't get learned until they happen. So
Hmm.
you can only do with what you've been presented so far. But yeah, good
And
fight.
when he dropped him, dude, Bonfim straight up did a front somersault to the
Yeah,
ground. Like,
dude, it was
I thought he
gnarly.
was out cold. Foreshadowing a fight we're gonna talk about in just a little bit. But
Yeah,
man, it was sick to watch. That one was fun. The ones that you
yeah,
highlighted for me to watch, I would have thought the whole event was great. And the crowd, like at first when I first started watching during earlier in the card, I
hmm,
forgot that this was a Brazil card, and I was like, the Apex looks kind of not very full. And then, but I was like, oh wait, they're in Brazil. It's still
yeah.
not that full. But then I heard the boos. I was like, oh, it sounds like there's a lot of people in there, and they definitely were booing Dalby when he got the win because he's fighting against the hometown kids.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah, it
definitely
was
the
funny
villain.
too.
He soaked it in, trying to hype
Yeah,
him up.
and Brendan Fitzgerald on the commentary was like, when he finished him and he's getting up, he's like, Nicholas Dalby, quiet or silences the crowd. But meanwhile, they're like all booing. It's
Yeah,
like,
they're all very loud. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Silent
uh,
boos.
yeah. But it was a good fight. Props to Dalby for, sometimes there's these guys that you can tell the UFC is getting the hype machine behind, like Paddy
Hmm.
Pimblett or some of these, and, and they matched them up. And I'm not saying they matched up Bonfim with Dalby thinking that Bonfim's going to steamroll Dalby or anything like that because he's no slouch. But
Hmm.
he's definitely like the A side of this matchup. The UFC was probably hoping Bonfim gets a win here so that they can continue to promote him and his ascension. And sometimes it's really cool when someone can spoil that. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
because of my like deep-seated like resentment or something like that, but
Well, we all like cheering for the villain, right? The guy that's not supposed to win.
yeah, the underdog. Yeah, exactly. So
The anti-hero,
but yeah,
anti-protagonist.
that's what we got.
Hey everybody, Romero and Will here. Thank you so much for watching that short clip. It's just a small clip of what we covered this last Sunday.
Yeah, if you want to check out the full fight card recap, the link is in the description, and it's going to be on screen at the end here. Don't forget to go back and watch our fighter interviews that we have. And don't forget to tune in live every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can join in on the fun.
Yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It goes a long way. All right, everybody, thanks for watching that short clip from Story of the Fight.